Hi, Paola Jo from SederQuilts. Today we're going to do some sewing. Well, actually not sewing as much as alterations. I have an old dress that I just love, but I have worn it and worn it and washed it so much that it is falling apart. And so now at this point, I just want to use it as a slip, as a long camisole. I like wearing a lot of these tunics, but sometimes they're not quite long enough because I'm kind of tall. So anyway, today we are going to do some revamping on this poor thing, and so we're going to use a serger. I have already removed my second needle because I'm going to be using a rolled edge, and I only need 3 rather than 4 threads, and so I'm just about ready to thread this, and then I'll show you what all we're going to do. I have a really handy dandy serger. This is about the 3rd machine I've had that was a serger, and this one has a nice little threader on it. It's so handy for over 50-year-old eyeballs. One of the other things that I love about it is that I can just thread it so quickly. The first 2 sergers I had were much harder to thread, but this one is really pretty easy. It uses air and it just shoots the thread right on through, just like that. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make this dress a little bit shorter than what I had it before, because as just a little top, I don't need it as long as I had it as a dress. So I want to have a full flower or 2 here and there, so I'm going to go up about 4 inches or so. I knew I wanted it at least 3 inches shorter than what I had it. And we're going to just eyeball it. Sewing should be lots of fun. You don't need to worry about every little step that you do. Just have fun with it. All right, the nice thing about a serger is it cuts and it zigzags and it finishes all at once. And this particular rolled hem feature will also turn the edge a little bit. If I get just the right stitch here, I'm going to go a little bit closer together. Let's try that one. Oh yes, that's what I want, right there. And then I'm just going to keep cutting off. And you can see here's a big hole in the edge. And that's not going to matter because when we're all done, we're going to shred the edges a little bit, kind of like the fringe on my scarf. And it'll just be a very cute long camisole underneath some of my tunics. I'm going to use some of these flowers that I'm cutting off to rough edge applique over some of the other holes, so in case I want to use it as a top layer instead of a lower layer. So I get to the pretty edge. Okay, so my dress is now hemmed and I don't have to do another thing with it. It is just finished already. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to drop the neckline a little bit, because as a camisole, I don't need it as high as it was as a dress. So I'm going to use reference points here on the back. I want it down a ways. And then we're going to cut that with my good scissors. Trying to line up both sides at the same time. Go. And then in the front I want to drop the neckline a little bit, and when I tried it on before underneath this tunic, again I wanted to go at least 2 inches or so lower than what it was. Let's go about 2.5, and again we're going to just draw a little bit of a line here. snip it. I could have just snipped it first without even drawing a line, but all right. And now we're going to take a little look at it. Yeah, I think that'll work just fine. All right, so now back to the serger. And we are just going to cut this off and finish it all at once. Line it up. I'm going to take off the old hem. And we're just going to follow pretty close to where I've trimmed it off. Straightening out any rough curves as we go. And just like driving a car, you watch ahead a little ways. And when I get back up here where I have the old hem, I just want to make sure I come off the edge a little bit. And back around. Starting point, and sometimes beginnings are the same as endings, and endings are the same as beginnings. There we go, and again we'll just snip that, and the neckline is all done. Ta-da! Oh yeah, that'll be much better. So basically it is shorter and the neckline is more open. I'm going to probably leave the armholes as they were. So the next thing we're going to do is fringe this edge. All right. I'm going to take a little rotary cutter, and I'm going to cut about every inch or two, inch and a half, half an inch. It doesn't really matter, but I just want to fringe it a little bit. Part of the reason I'm doing this is I don't want to wear it as a dress anymore, and so I want to make sure that it's not going to be able to be worn as a dress anymore. And with that fringe like that, making it a little too short, I won't be tempted to wear it as a dress anymore. There we go. Okay, so now it's fringed, and we could just leave it as is, but I don't want it to ravel, so I'm going to serge those little edges. And then it'll be done. So let me show you just real quickly on that. I'm not going to do all of them, obviously, but we will do a few of them. And again, we're still using the rolled hem edge. If this was a cotton dress, I would not be serging any of these edges, but because this is a rayon polyester, I don't want it to shred. When I get to the end here, I'm just going to straighten this all out and keep it going just like that. And so now those edges are finished and they're not going to ravel, and I'm going to do that to the rest of the So I'm almost done serging the fringes on this used to be dress, soon to be camisole. And I'm just going around the corners here. I've got just one left now, I think. And I could have been a little slower, a little more meticulous, a little more careful going around the corners. But it'll be just fine the way it is. And now that hem is just kind of cute and just a neat little fringe. So now we're going to take the cut off hem and we're going to cut out some of these flowers, and we're just going to keep them kind of a rough raw edge, and we're going to applique them using some Misty Fuse. Now we're back over at the ironing board, and we have the little worn out dress, and done. We have our little flowers that we cut out of the hem that we removed. And we are going to use some Misty Fuse. Misty Fuse is a very thin, I'm going to hold it over here so you can see it, a very thin web of adhesive. And it doesn't have any smell to it, and it is heat activated. So there are wonderful goddess sheets, which are Teflon basically, or silicone, and we're going to put this on here, and then we're going to cut some of these little Misty Fuse pieces, and we're going to iron these on here. And with Misty Fuse, you can overlap it. It's not going to be too bulky. And I'm going to cut this basically in half here. It does not change the hand or the way it does not change the hand of your fabric. It doesn't change the way your fabric feels. And it's just marvelous. Alrighty, I'm going to close that all up together. And the reason I use the goddess sheets is then the stickum doesn't get on my ironing board and it doesn't get on my iron. And you just need a little bit of heat and then you let it cool because it's hot. This goddess sheet transfers the heat evenly and melts it right on there. See that? And it's still very soft and flexible. It doesn't change, it doesn't make it all hard and stiff and icky to work with. So there we go. And now I'm going to use 2 sheets of goddess sheets. I have a little one and a big one. Someday I'm going to order the really big one. But, all right, this is going to go inside here so that I don't iron my dress together. I'm going to use a pressing sheet in between first of all. And you can see how much of a rip finally happened on that poor dress. It's been one of my favorites for so many years. And then I'm going to put the Misty Fuse goddess sheet underneath it. Just like that. And then I'm going to place my little flowers on here, covering up the hole. Some of you have used denim patches over the years to fix things. They're basically the same, but this is way prettier. I'm going to need a third one on here. Well, let's do this much first. And I'm not using as hot an iron as I would for my cotton fabrics because I don't want to melt my dress. That would kind of defeat the purpose of fixing it. Alrighty, and so now those flowers are stuck on here. There's some little raw edges where I didn't have the Misty Fuse under the entire flower, and then we will sew that with a zigzag and embellish it a little bit. But I need one more flower to finish covering up the rest of that hole. But isn't that going to work nicely? And it'll just be darling and cute. Okay, so now I have my little dress shortened and fringed and layered underneath I still have to trim a few of these threads, but that will be pretty quick and easy to do. But anyway, you can see that it just adds a little bit of color so it matches my boots. And I have several different brown scarves that I like, and it'll just add a little bit of accent to tie my outfit together. Okay, so there you go. Now you can upcycle one of your favorite outfits and let me know how it goes. Thanks so much. Toodaloo.